Welcome to Champion Minded, the podcast for those who aim for excellence, not only in the sports arena, but in life. My name is Allistair, author, speaker, mindset and performance coach, and my goal is to help you unleash your unlimited potential and provide you with the tools to achieve greatness. Are you ready to become champion minded? Then let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome to the Champion Minded podcast, or welcome back to the podcast. I'm Allistair, your host. This is the podcast where I get to dissect high performance and high performers. The podcast where we learn more about winning mindsets and world-class preparation. I get to interview athletes, coaches, and high performers in different sectors, not just sports, but in entertainment, anywhere where there is excellence being achieved. But in this week's podcast, I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty excited. I have, first time on the show, a hockey player. And because I know this podcast is listened around the world, I have to obviously say that it's ice hockey and not field hockey. So obviously in the United States and Canada, ice hockey is a huge sport, especially to the Canadians who've been incredibly successful in it. Delaney competed for the national team for 11 years. She competed in 5 world championships where they obtained 3 gold and 2 silver. So a really, really incredible, successful athletic career. Played defense for the national team. She has now transitioned into coaching and had a lot of success already in her coaching career. You'll see when we get into this chat that she talks about the experience she gained as a player, some of her mentors, some of the coaches she's worked with. What I love about Delaney is that she's a lifelong learner. You'll hear that she is very humble, willing to learn from anybody. What I also love about her style as well is that she's able to really connect with the players she works with. A nice combination between discipline, but also having that, if we can call it, softer relationship with the players as well. Knowing when to push someone, knowing when to hold them back. So, incredibly interesting podcast. Also, she's training for her first half Ironman, which is no easy feat. And she's definitely someone that really invests in her own health, invests in her energy, something we talk about in this podcast, which is so easy for us as coaches to burn out. I am the perfect example of that, not once, but a few times of just pushing it too much. Coaching is an industry where we give a lot of ourselves. So, this is a great chat. I enjoyed this one. I know you guys will as well. So here it is. This is Delaney Collins. Hey, Delaney, welcome to the Champion Minded podcast.
Thanks, Allistair. How are you doing?
I'm good, but I'm still trying to shake off this cold, which seems to be hanging around. And I don't think I can blame the Florida weather, because here it's pretty much always hot. But otherwise, can't complain.
Excellent. Nice to see you.
And you too. Thank you. You've had a busy schedule already this year. It's been crazy. You're obviously a former player, 11 years in the national team for Canada, 5 world championships, and the record there of 3 golds, 2 silvers tells me that you were playing on a very, very high quality team. And just actually, I think it was this past weekend was the first time that the Canadian woman didn't get gold or silver. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, it was just yesterday they played for bronze, which is never easy to do. It's tough when you're not in the final to regroup that next day. But Canada did a good job. It was a character win over Russia. Having said that, though, that certainly we need to take a step back and just look at where our program is in the country of Canada for hockey. Obviously that's a mainstay sport for us up here, and we value our results. We're looking for gold medals in Canada.
Yeah, the way I see Canadian hockey is the way I see like New Zealand rugby. It's like a religion. It's like if you're not winning all the time, then it's total failure. In other words, it's like there's no in between. So that obviously must have been quite a shock. The history of Canadian and American hockey is is throughout the years. But yeah, that's a tough one, especially not to be in that territory to play for bronze. So anyway, Delaney, give us a little bit of background about your playing career. We're going to start there. We're going to start in your playing career, growing up. I'd really love to hear about how you got into hockey and how that progressed for you, first of all.
Sure. Yeah. Being Canadian, this is kind of a typical story. I grew up in a small town playing boys hockey. I really didn't know any better than to jump on a boys team and play through that. And then in high school, I transitioned to female hockey. I had a great childhood full of multi-sport opportunities and really embraced that. I never played hockey in the summers, but it was a great winter sport for me. Something I really enjoyed. I did know at an early age I was competitive and had a talent. I liked the puck. I liked scoring. I liked winning. But there was no pressure as a kid growing up. And I kind of got an idea around, my early teens that I could be a national team athlete, and then a few opportunities presented themselves, and I found myself, playing with the best players in the country. But a very humble childhood and exciting childhood, but small town, rural Canadian hockey player. It was excellent.
So, did you actually come from a hockey family? Did your parents play? Was siblings that played the game? How were you introduced to it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So my dad played semi-professional hockey. My brothers both played hockey, and my mom had tried skating and played hockey when she was in her youth as well in Calgary. So that was interesting. They asked me if I wanted to figure skate, and my mom, I can remember dangling like these white skates in front of me. And my dad had this big red bag of gear, and I had just turned 4, and I can remember the conversation. Do you want to do this or do you want to do this? And there was no doubt I was going to play hockey. I wanted to be involved. I didn't understand the difference in gender, and so I chose hockey.
What attracted you to hockey over ice skating? I'm just figure skating. I'm curious. Was it you wanted to be in a team? You weren't keen to play an individual sport? What really attracted you to the game?
Probably the puck, the idea of having the puck and that second piece of equipment out there, the stick, the puck, the gear. It looked entertaining. And we played street hockey. It was in our culture. It was on TV. I felt figure skating was maybe too restrictive in terms of, and you don't know this when you're 4, but it felt too feminine. And that just wasn't me. I have like decent masculine energy and feminine energy. And I wanted to be able to express myself in that way. And, I was very attracted to it. It was great, and a lot of females now play, and we're aggressive, and it's wonderful.
Yep. Now it seems that if you're born in Canada, the minute you're born, you're given a puck and a hockey stick. Just like in New Zealand, you're given a rugby ball, for example. But what other sport did you mentioned you played other multi sports? What other sports did you play?
Well, growing up, we would basically play everything. So you've got your softball or baseball, golf. In high school, I played rugby and soccer. I also played floorball for Team Canada at the later stages of my hockey career. I did that as well. And, I really feel I still look to do different things. So like right now I'm training for an Ironman, which is swimming, biking, running,
Wow.
your triathlon sports. That is not easy for a hockey player.
Credit.
To be able to move that well for distance, but I enjoy it.
Well, I mean, I remember back in 2011, you had a half. That was your first half Ironman, a half marathon back in 2011, correct?
Yeah, that was correct in Seattle, and that is one of my best memories because to transition from being an elite hockey player, and obviously you helped me work through that transition, and be able to do a distance race is pretty exciting for a hockey player.
Yeah, you retired from professional hockey in 2011 or 2010?
2011.
2011. Okay, and then you decided to do a half marathon. So nice transition. Nice way to rest.
Correct, right?
All right, awesome. Let's talk about the difference between junior hockey and moving into the senior ranks. Now, there's no checking in the junior game, correct? Checking meaning body contact, as we see on TV.
That's correct. There's no body checking in the women's game, but there's body contact contact, and the game at the senior level is extremely physical. So when we're getting athletes ready to play on the national team or on the junior development team, we call it in Canada, they have to start to learn to play and have success with the puck under extreme pressure and in traffic. You're going to get knocked off the puck. You're going to have to go into the tough areas, we call them. You're going to have to go into the dirty areas and face contact and still hold on to pucks and still make plays. So it actually is a big talking point in our country of how we handle pucks with one or two checkers on us. Can you hang on to it? Can you protect it? Can you manage it? And that's the big conversation we're having right now. Or does the puck have to move to somewhere else really quick and then you jump into holes to receive it back? It's the hottest topic we have in hockey in our country.
Interesting. Every sport has its challenges, especially with rules and changing certain things and so on. Any regrets from your playing days?
Yeah, I wasn't a pro early enough, and I'm actually more of a pro now than I was my early career there. I'd be hit and miss with the national team, and it just depended on how focused I was with training.
So when you talk about pro, you're talking about the status pro or the acting of being a professional?
The acting of being a professional. Yeah, the acting of it. How do you maintain? Are you doing rehab or prehab? Are you recovering well? And I found that really the turning point for me was 2007. And that's when in 2007, I basically said enough is enough. I'm going to be multi-sport. I'm going to know how to recover well. I'm going to have to know how to train, extremely well and just really focus on that. But
what changed that for you? Was it a particular coach? Was it something that happened? You were injured? What changed that for you?
Yeah, I was released from the 2006 Olympic team, and I had felt that with the talent I had and my desire, that I needed to fix a few things, and mostly it just was an attitude towards training. So that would be the one regret I had, was that early on I wasn't as good as I could necessarily be.
But let me ask you this: were you aware of it before, or when you were dropped from that your coaches gave you the feedback, as in this needs to be better, that needs to be better? Were you given that feedback?
Yeah, just overall fitness results. Short in hockey, we have a big focus on short-term competition, and how can you play back-to-back games and still win a world championship and be physically ready? So, that's something that I had to learn to prepare for, quite frankly.
I tell you, that must have been probably one of your lowlights of your career, of being dropped from an Olympic team, because that's like the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, I was dropped from 3, and 2002, 2006, and then 2010 I was concussed. So it was one of those things that, truthfully, it makes me a better person, a better adult, a better professional now. It makes me have the ability to talk to athletes and to navigate the waters when you're dealing with adversity. So it is what it is, and it is a piece of who I am as a coach. And then potentially, like, my goal right now as a coach is to be an Olympic coach, to find my way to the Olympics. And I love it. That happens or not, is to be determined, but the intention is there.
Now, beautiful time to segue into coaching, because after your career finished in 2011, did you go straight into coaching? Did you always know that was something you were going to do?
Truthfully, not at all. I needed a break from hockey. I was just done, and concussions had been lingering, and I was nervous about it, and I needed a break. And I got a call from a university, and it was a winning university, and I thought I should go there and just try it out. It was a recommendation from Hockey Canada that I potentially could be a good coach. I had no idea if I was or could be, but I went and did my master's degree and coached it in the NCAA for 5 years, and that was excellent. I really enjoyed it. But only 2 years into retirement, I got a call from the national team to work with our development team. So that meant I was immediately coaching players I had played with. And as soon as I got on the national team bench, I felt so comfortable. I felt that I had the background, and I was ready, and I was keen, and I could learn, and I was a good teacher, and I knew right away. So I had just been, then from there, I I went between our development team and our U18 national team for the next 4 years, assisting. Worked my way up to being a head coach with our U18 national team, and I'm a life learner, and I'm proud to say that because coaching isn't easy. Every kid is different. You have to be innovative. And hockey in Canada right now, we need to open up conversations and open up skill development. So that's how I transitioned to coaching with our national teams. And it's my current passion. I'm proud to say I'm associated with hockey and Hockey Canada. And it's been wonderful for the last 7 years.
Well, I've known you now almost 10 years. Time flies, and I mean, always remember you, obviously, the way you train and work out, and how tough dealing with those concussions towards the end were for you. Staying with coaching, what would you say would be the difference between Delaney Collins, the coach today, and Delaney, the coach 5-6 years ago?
A lot of difference. Right now, I'm really proud to say that I work hard behind the scenes. And early on, I was reactive. I would just get the task as a coach and quickly learn on the spot. Now I look at hockey quite a bit differently because I see a need for development, skill development, and learning to win and teaching winning, and teaching so many different things. So a simple task like turning the volume off while I watch hockey, and pausing and rewatching and seeing what's happening in games, and then creating a drill for it. That's the person I am now that I wasn't 6 or 8 years ago at all. And I really get excited about the development pieces and seeing how they're translating for athletes in the games in high pressure situations.
So obviously coaching is leadership. Would you say you've always been a leader in some way? Were you a leader when you were playing? Or was it something you've had to really learn, had to metamorphosize into?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was a leader when I was playing. I couldn't necessarily find my voice when I was playing. I was part of the team, and I do think I have a natural tendency to be a leader. And with that, there's a lot of learning because it's lonely at the top. So you got to be firm, you got to be brave, you got to have courage to coach hockey in Canada. And sometimes I'll have support around me, sometimes I won't. But regardless, there's a big calling, for leadership, and I think I have the basic characteristics. But at the same time, we're always learning. I have to learn to listen to what's around me and use the people around me a little bit better.
Mm. Now, obviously, one thing you have to your advantage is, there's this thing that you sometimes see on social media that you don't have to be a great player to be a great coach, because there really are two very, very different things. However, my argument is I believe that when you're working with national athletes, Olympians and so on, it's pretty important to be an ex good player, pro player, to get the respect. Would you agree with me with that? I mean, you don't have to be a former great player to work with hockey or coaching by any means, but I think that level of where you're at, the national level, it definitely does help to have the credentials like you have, for example. Has that helped you?
It has, and I completely agree with you. I think there's something to be said for me to have the ability to step on the ice and even partially enter into a drill or be able to do a skill at full speed. And one thing I will say is I have to constantly be working on my craft. So I will get ice sometimes and practice certain skills before I teach them. And it's funny, I was thinking, okay, I need new skates. I need to be fit. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is a huge summer for me for fitness, so that if I am around high-level national team athletes at Hockey in Canada, I can move with them. Not at their level by any means. I'm not delusional that I'm a national team hockey player still. Well, maybe a bit. But
well, you look as fit as you did from the day you played. So there's something obviously going on there.
Yeah, I want to be fit. I really do.
It's a lifestyle.
I want shoot. I want to be able to score. I want to be able to dissect how I deke the goalie. And I don't want to be locked up and out of shape and feeling bad about myself. And there's a whole nother level of energy that I bring when I'm fit and bring on the ice. to a skill session or even on the bench in short-term competition. There's that positive, that healthy, that loving, that kindness. And when I have a good level of fitness and I feel like I can play and do the drills and practice, there's something there for sure.
Now, I have in front of me one of my books, 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach, which you are in there, of course. Chapter 4 talks about energy. This is what you're talking about right now, the importance of, and I talk in the book about the importance of a coach having a great energy, not just in terms of attitude and not being moody, for example, but also you can only give energy if you have energy. And you're touching on that right now about taking care of yourself more, taking care of your health, taking care of your energy, taking care of yourself. So how important have you found that in your career?
Really important. There's nowhere for me to hide when I don't have energy, and because this is who I am and I'm full of it. And so when it's not there, everyone's looking at you a little differently. So it's incredibly important. And something as simple as like even visualization or stretching or a tiny workout can just inject that little extra piece that you need to coach 20 to 23 athletes who are relying on you heavily. And they don't have the mental energy to be able to process if you're tired or moody or available to them. And that's the biggest piece of being a pro and being a leader and being a great coach that you talk about.
Yeah. I mean, and how difficult as well, because we feel as coaches, and I've had various times in my career where I've burned out. I push it to the max. But, knowing when that limit is, for example, because for me, it was always about being on. And I'll be honest with you, Delaney, and I spoke about this in the book as well, is that after years of being on, you can hit a wall eventually, which I did. And I've done it multiple times where you just don't know where that limit is. You're pushing, you're always being, like I said, being on, energetic, even if you're not feeling like it. But after a while, it becomes incredibly exhausting. So do you periodically plan breaks for yourself to switch off? Are you able to? It's something I struggle with.
It's hard. I was talking to a coach yesterday, and I said to him, sorry, I didn't return your call. I need to step away from the game. I need 2 weeks minimum. And he was very respectful. He said, yeah, I kind of figured as much. Like hockey is a perfect example. It is so intense. And the season is long. You have to stand up for yourself to step away. And as a coach, I have a period at the end of the season where, I don't believe I'm available for the sport. And that's what I need to do to get re-energized. And early on, I was like you, I 12 months and stopping loving it. Something's got to change. The dam's going to break. So it's really important to schedule those times and then be at ease to communicate it. So you say for the month of April, I will not be doing hockey. I'm sorry, I'm unavailable. Talk to you May 1st. Like it's hard to do, but when you take these, when you do that, do you completely shut down? You don't take calls. Obviously you're still checking if it's something very, very important from Hockey Canada, for example. You're going to take it, but do you really? You try and not watch hockey. You try and just have a complete break. It's, I think, impossible to do a complete break because the NHL playoffs and the World Championships, but just maybe not take it so scheduled and so serious. And for me, it's just prioritizing Ironman training.
There you go.
So before anything else, I've taken care of a bike, run, swim, or 2 of the 3, and then I'm available. Yeah. And it's not easy. Your phone rings, or to not send a text back, but the good people will understand. So, I'm still waiting to text back to say, hey, coach, do you want to meet for coffee to talk hockey? I haven't replied. It's been a week, but I know that person on the end will say, great, way to take care of yourself. We'll talk in time. Yeah. So you got to get the right people around you.
There you go. So key there. Well said. Back to 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach. What you're talking to me resonates with, it all starts with your standards. And the standards you have are so important to bring across to other people of what, what's accepted, what's not accepted, and vice versa. You'd want to know that from your fellow coaches and so on and so forth. But it sounds there that you're really putting your boundaries out in a way of taking care of your energy, because the more energy you have, the more energy you can better give to the team and to the players and everybody else for that matter. So like you said, it's so important to have people that actually understand that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's great too. I'm surrounded by some good female coaches, peers of mine that I played with on the national team, and we're in coaching groups. We talk about leadership, we talk about the issues, and we talk about self-preservation, and where our game is going. And so it's kind of nice to have former players around me that are so good, and we appreciate and we support each other.
Now, I'm glad you went there, because something I saw on Twitter 2-3 weeks ago, actually, while I'm on that subject, what is your Twitter handle in case anybody wants to follow you, reach out to you, Delaney?
Yeah, it's Delaney C34.
Delaney C34, and that's on Twitter.
Yeah, that's on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, perfect. And Instagram as well. Same address?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, cool. So I saw something phenomenal happened at a competition, excuse me for my sketchiness here, where it's the first time that 3 female coaches led the 3 teams to gold, silver, and bronze. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So the competition is the Canada Winter Games, and that is the second biggest multi-sport event on earth. So you got your Olympics, and then in Canada we have a Canada Winter Games. So you got hockey, men's, women's hockey. You've got biathlon, synchronized swimming, archery, judo. It's unbelievable. And in women's hockey, Carla McLeod, Noemi Moran, and myself, we are head coaching Alberta, Quebec, and British Columbia, respectively. We I guess you could say, swept the podium as female head coaches, and that was truly wonderful, because we're all Hockey Canada coaches, and I'm really proud. I mean, we went up against it, we went at it. It's hard to lose to your friend, but at the same time, I'm really proud of them, and really proud that as female head coaches, we were able to accomplish that.
That's incredible. Gold, silver, and bronze. I mean, that's amazing. Now, what's the situation with regards women coaches in hockey? Are there more than in other sports, for example? Because it's obviously something in tennis where there's not a lot of female coaches, especially on the professional tour. And I'd love to see more. Judy Murray's doing a great job with that. And Amelie Marismo, of course, is out there. But what about hockey, especially with female teams? Is there enough female coaches? Could there be more? What's the climate looking like there?
There certainly is room for more, and it is what it is. I tend to not want to dissect that too much, but I think it's really important that as female coaches we stick together and we learn from each other and we support each other, and there is room for more female coaches without a doubt, but you got to find that support, and Hockey Canada does an incredible job promoting and developing their female coaches that were former players. And
they have a program in place, or they just basically promote it better. How do they go about that?
They spend time and money on development and of putting us in situations to learn about leadership, or to learn, to have different opportunities. And they believe in us. They've invested in us, and I'm really proud to say that as a female coach, that we're a leader in getting former players involved. And overall, the landscape, though, I think we could have more female coaches, and I believe there's going to be a shift in mentality, to really get families and parents supporting their daughters being coached by females.
Because, like you said, it's still a fantastic. Obviously, it's a fantastic world, and you get to travel, you get to work with fellow like-minded people as well, in what you're doing. So, I mean, it's an incredible job as well. I mean, I'm getting much older, and I think I'm approaching now 27 years of actual in the coaching industry, starting as like a 17, 18-year-old. But I mean, I love it. I can't see myself doing anything else, to be honest. So, truly blessed. This has been great. I mean, we've got definitely a few more things I want to touch on with you, Delaney, and thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, this is absolutely wonderful. Thanks, Allistair.
Taking the time away from your Ironman training, so thank you. I know you just actually had a run before this, or a bike, right?
Yeah, just a quick morning run, just to get ready.
Let's talk about team culture. How important is culture in a team, and how would you describe a good culture in a team?
Culture's everything, because you're going to fall apart without it. And my one thing I will tell you is what I truly believe is it takes time. It takes
Amen.
time, and it takes the same kids committing to the same programs and reinforcing the standards and knowing the coach's vision and knowing their own vision and their own pride levels, and what's acceptable, what's fun, how do you manufacture growth in that dressing room when a coach isn't there. There's so much conversation about it, but the truth is you can't have a quitter's culture in any way, shape, or form. And when you do have good culture, you are a big machine. You can move mountains.
What would you say is the most important thing in a culture? Is it the example of the leadership?
Possibly. I think leadership is more linear now. Like I think that everybody has to bring a piece of leadership into that dressing room, not just your captains. I don't think you need as big of a divide as we typically have in hockey. You have a captain and 2 or 3 assistants, or a leadership group, which may include a goaltender. I think that everybody's got to bring a piece, and I think that a mentality where you want to come in and you want to strive for a positive environment. You want to strive to get in there. It's not easy. And we can't shelter our kids from tough conversations. Or, I don't like her, I'm out. No way. Figure out why you don't like her. Because when you figure that stuff out, you become friends for life. Mm-hmm. And, we aren't hitting the harder stuff right now. But that's the piece of culture that I really think it's tricky.
Mm. What would you say is the most, I mean, you're just talking about that there, but the most challenging thing in a culture today?
Let me put it this way. If I were to make a t-shirt right here, right now, the front of it would say love and the back would say adversity. Love, adversity. That would be it. We can't keep running. And we got to learn to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest challenge, is just quit seeking out something that's easy.
Instant gratification, yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough. And hockey comes and goes. So I'm just speaking from a hockey perspective. But hockey will come and hockey will go. Injuries will happen, and things. But at the end of the day, the character piece, to love adversity, is something we need to improve upon.
Now, I've had this question before. What do you do when, for example, 1 or 2 of your best players are actually the biggest troublemakers on the team? And I consult to a lot of colleges and a lot of teams and so on and so forth, and these type of conversations come up where our best player, or one of our best players, is one of our biggest problems and one of our biggest headaches, but they get us points, they get us to the conference finals. What would you say about that?
I would say that as a leader and as a coach, we need to use our words and talk through some of these things. Explain how important that athlete is and how valuable they are because they deliver on the number side, the point side, the championship side. But how in life and how in a team atmosphere, there are other things than winning. Mm-hmm. And that is, how do you make people feel? Mm-hmm. So how does that good player, bad person make people feel? And start to have small bits of conversation around it. You don't want to lose them, and maybe you do. I don't know. You don't want to lose that player because they help you win, and winning's important.
Yeah, for sure, especially at your level. Yeah,
absolutely. We're lucky in the senior national women's team. Our best players are our best people.
Oh, and that's powerful.
Very powerful. I hope that continues. I know it will continue.
Yeah.
We have some really good people at the higher levels, female hockey players in Canada that are great people, and they're great hockey players. And I use it as an example every day, whether people want to embrace that and understand it. My captain for Team British Columbia was just the greatest person ever. She was the perfect captain. And I was just really proud of her because as a person, she was unbelievable, but then delivered and was intense and competitive and had mindfulness for her teammates. It's a real nice thing when your best players are your best people.
I was actually in Texas last week consulting, and I always love getting great questions from the athletes there because they're interested in obviously improving the culture. But that discussion came up as well, is that when your best players are your best examples, your hardest working, you're on a good path to a good culture because you've got leadership in the locker room. You've got the example right there that captain or that leader can have the respect and authority to say you're not working hard enough, because that other player can't look back at them and go, well, neither are you, because they know they're working hard. But here's a question for you, Coach. What'll happen sometimes, and it's happened to me now probably twice in the last 2 colleges I've visited. Always leave myself open for questions afterwards where they maybe didn't want to ask a question in the group environment, and they say, my coaches want me to be a leader in the team, and I'm happy to be the leader. However, I don't want to become the team snitch. I don't want to become the in-between person that has to report things, or the minute I walk into a locker room, it goes quiet. What would your advice be for an athlete that really does want to be a leader and they feel they could be, but they don't want to be that person?
I think when you're talking to that athlete, you have to let them know what is the difference between something you need to report and something you could clean up on your own. So knowing that fine line, if you say to the athletes, hey, here's the issue, I don't want to take this to the coach. Let's find a solution. That's the last thing I want. Can we get a solution? Can we talk about it in-house? I want to be able to report to the coach on this, this, and this, and keep that relationship healthy. But the truth is I'm your captain, the player's captain. So here's an issue. Let's give potential solutions, get them written down on paper, because words shape our world, and then see if those solutions can happen without having to go to the coach. So it's a matter of just talking through it. But it can be tough. Coaches don't need to know certain things if they have a real good leadership group.
I think that's some great advice. Probably the best advice I've heard so far on that. And so that's why I love doing this podcast, because I learned so much from also people like yourself and all the guests we've had on here. A few weeks ago, we had Coach Bob Bowman, Michael Phelps' coach, and we just have so much quality people. And I feel so blessed and privileged to be able to do this, because this is learning for me. This is almost like being selfish and saying, let me see what I can learn here. So that's great advice. Thank you. Let's see. I mean, we're ticking these off, and we're getting some amazing answers, and I know the coaches are really going to appreciate that out here. Let's go to parents. We love parents. No, yes, we do. I'm not too sure what the hockey culture is with parents, but let me start here by saying that parents are, in youth sports, the most important part of the puzzle, in my opinion. And a big mistake I see, coaches, and you might agree with me here, and I want to get your feedback here, is, we hear coaches saying parents are the problem, shut them out, blah, 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 which is completely the opposite, because at the end of the day, they pay they pay towards our salaries and so on and so forth, especially in youth sports. But I think that's one of the biggest problems, is that coaches don't communicate enough with parents. Coaches don't give them enough information that they know what's going on, for example, in the program. And that's what creates the problem. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. I agree with that. And, in hockey in particular, there is an issue around parents potentially just having too much access to coaches, and an unhealthy approach. Like, I wouldn't go to anybody else's job, walk in and tell them how to do their job.
Yeah.
But by no means do a lot of people tell me how to do my job. Having said that, that is just, an easy complaint on my part. And if I'm weak, then I sit here and I complain about it. But I think I'm strong enough to say that when it comes to parents, we need to educate parents on how their messaging and how they behave and how they interact with other parents and how they interact with the coach and how they support the coach's messaging, how that will ultimately make their daughters or sons better athletes, better citizens, better people. So sports organizations could, I think, step forward and create more education for parents, maybe even coach parent seminars. Here's where I'm coming from. Here are my values. Here's my philosophy. Here's what I need from you. Here are potential scenarios that could go wrong. And pre-talk before a season about things that potentially could go wrong, and where that interference or broken down communication affects the team culture.
Now, I'm going to jump in right there. Sorry, because you're giving some great advice there, but I'm going to jump in there right now where I completely agree with your advice. However, and it's brilliant advice, but parents don't necessarily want to come to these things. That's a problem, and it's usually the parents that are the problem, that either don't come to those meetings, don't agree with those meetings. You know what's funny is that, if I've given parent seminars, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, Coach, but the parents that go there are usually the good parents, the ones that you don't actually have a problem with.
Yes.
It's the ones that need to be there that aren't there, right?
What if they had a mandatory, like, how we do so many like mandatory safety in sport, ethics in sport. Those are things Hockey Canada we do. What if parents had a mandatory quick webinar that they have to answer questions? That's part of the mandated into being a parent.
I think that's the best suggestion I've heard, to be honest.
Yep, it's just it's a 15-minute, here's the scenario, the coach says this, what would you do, true or false, or click A or B, A, B, or C. And then we're building education. We're educating. Parents matter. They're valuable.
Yeah.
And we have to value them as well as coaches.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Coach, I think one of the greatest weaknesses of a lot of coaches is the ability to not confront situations enough. A, they either hope they go away. B, they don't want to confront that parent about a certain issue that maybe their kid is being dropped from the team or whatever it may be. I think a lot of the time, I think comes down to that. It's not that they don't want to communicate. They just don't like confrontation. And confrontation is not a bad thing. When you hear the word confrontation, you go, ooh, that's negative. You're going to confront me on something. But you have to confront the hard conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really respect people that engage in confrontation, because generally it's very healthy, uncomfortable but healthy. And there are a lot of tough conversations that have to take place, and we need to have more of it. You're completely right. The one thing I guard against as a female coach coaching hockey in Canada is when there's enough confrontation, people then want to think, okay, I want to go back to a male head coach. And so we need to build out an education piece on the importance of female role models and how their daughters can be impacted by having female role models. But the confrontation piece, we have to open this discussion right away across all sports, because it is so valuable.
Great advice. Excuse me. Let's see here. Advice for young athletes. Let's say we've got a 12, 13-year-old that would love to play, not just hockey, but wants to be maybe go to college or play at a higher level. What would your advice be to a young athlete?
You want to stay humble. You can't think you're good enough. You can't stop learning, and then to be uncomfortable. it's okay to be a little bit vulnerable. I worked with a mental performance coach at the Canada Winter Games named Dave Freeze, and Dave introduced the difference between girl A and girl B. Girl B is safe. Girl B doesn't want to be laughed at or be vulnerable. Girl A is striving. It can be uncomfortable, isn't afraid to be laughed at, to try something new. And that girl A, that model of girl A, she's important.
That's great you go on to it. Confidence in an athlete. Obviously, we know how important that is. But in your opinion, what is true confidence?
Yeah, true confidence is you're not thinking, you're just doing, and you can handle making a mistake. My big philosophy as a coach is that mistakes are the most important things. You learn from them, and then instead of making a kid feel bad about a mistake, actually get them go back into the mistake, encourage them to play the same way and to try to build it out and fix it. But confidence is the ability to make mistakes and then be like, no big deal. I like mistakes. I don't care. And because I know, like, as a player on the national team, when I was playing well, it didn't bug me to make a mistake. I still thought I was amazing. I'd already moved on. It didn't matter. But that would be true confidence to me, is to just have that mental warrior mentality, regardless of how things go.
Let's go on to mentors. How important are mentors for a coach? Do you have a mentor, for example?
Yeah, I would have a mentor, Mel Davidson. She's one of the winningest coaches ever in Canada in the female program, gold medalist 3 times over. And, she's brought me along, and I have so much respect for her. It's the funny story. The backstory is, like, she released me from the national team a few times. And that's how I totally respect her, because, I respected her decisions to release myself, and then other times she brought me on the team, and I was very successful. But now that I've gotten to know her in not a player-coach relationship, but in a coach-coach relationship, she inspires me. She works hard behind the scenes and has influenced me and changed me. And she's a winner. She's brave. She's girl A. And I've really, really liked working with Mel Davidson.
I like that. Going back to what you said there, she was the coach that released you. What advice would you give to a coach that has to drop a player from a team, or because again that goes along the lines of confrontation, which some are good at, and a lot of the times you've heard things go very sour because a player was dropped, kicked out, whatever it may be. But what would your advice be to the right approach to releasing a player, dropping a player, giving them that bad news?
I think you keep the messaging short, firm, and then leave an opportunity for feedback in the future through a safe channel. So if I were to release an athlete, it's you give that messaging and then just let them know that here's the email address to contact us or to call us to get more information and more feedback, and see what the.
Would you obviously be giving them the reasons why they were dropped, why they were released?
Not immediately. Yes, absolutely. That would come within days, but I don't think it's necessary to give it completely on the spot, because they all, it's so hard, and believe me, I know,
emotional,
to hear yes or no, that you don't necessarily hear the rest of it. So you take a little bit of a step back, and then you get your feedback, and then you can decide if you're willing to work and address it. And again, we're talking about education. So I really think, like, when I work with athletes, I do scenarios. So I say, okay, athlete A, athlete B. Athlete A, sit down and I'm going to cut you. And athlete B, sit down and I'm going to keep you. And then the athlete stands up, shakes their hand, says, thank you, coach. I appreciate the opportunity. And so when you've done that once, and you've done these scenarios with these kids and given them, a dry run at cut or release, then when they are in that situation, they're able to handle it better.
So that's something in your methodology, or that's in Hockey
mine.
Canada of yours?
It's in mine. So when I run camps, I do like media training or cut release training or building out values or team building.
That's fascinating. I've never heard this before. Yeah. So you actually prepare them for the reality. Because one day you are going to get cut, one day you are going to get dropped, one day you are going to have that conversation.
the kid will and I've actually had the scenario where it plays out where kids I've worked with, I've had to release, and they stand up, they shake my hand, say the best of luck in the competition. And, I hope I'm helping them because I've been there and I didn't have the education. So when I was released from the Olympic team, I was like, I didn't even shake the coach's hands, but, I didn't know any better. So now I'm helping kids know better. But it is not easy to be released. It's horrible. But if I can help them and give them the tools to learn, to grow from it, then everybody wins.
And who better than you? I mean, being dropped from 3 Olympics.
Correct.
I mean, that's at the most extreme level of disappointment. So who better to know what that really feels like? So, yeah, I mean, again, where experience comes in, so important. Okay, awesome. I mean, this has been incredible, Delaney. I mean, I've learned a lot, and I'm sure all the listeners are going to take loads from this. I mean, I've been writing notes and notes and notes while we've been going along. Let's go over to our quickfire questions. I've got a few quickfire questions here for you, and then we're going to finish it off with what you feel makes a champion-minded athlete. But are you ready?
Yes.
All right, cool. Favorite food?
Steak.
Favorite drink?
Gatorade.
Tea, coffee, or protein shake?
Coffee.
Big coffee, okay. Pete's?
Pardon me?
Pete's coffee?
Pete's coffee, correct.
Shout out. Favorite city you've visited?
Paris.
Favorite sport other than hockey?
Too easy. Tennis.
Oh, why did I think it was going to be that? Favorite tennis player?
Federer.
Okay, women's side?
Serena.
Serena, going for the outright champion, the GOATs there, right?
Yeah.
Favorite team? Besides Canada hockey, of course, but it can be another sport.
Can I be honest? I don't have a team.
Okay.
I've never had a team, not even in hockey. Is that weird?
A little. But it takes to be something special, you have to be different, right? So no surprise there. Here's a tough one. One word to describe you. You can only have one word.
Champion.
Ooh. Okay. I like that. That's big on the champion-minded, I tell you. That one. Favorite movie?
The Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay, I haven't seen that one. Who acts in there?
Jim something, Guy Pearce. It's like he's in jail for 11 years and then he comes out.
Big movie. What was it again? Once more?
The Count of Monte Cristo.
Count of Monte Cristo. Okay. Actually written that down, so perfect. Okay. This has been awesome. And before we conclude, Delaney, your opinion on what makes a champion-minded athlete?
A champion-minded athlete is willing to be so much more than a normal person. So the normal person gets up and goes to school, does homework, goes to a movie, etc. The champion-minded athlete does everything the normal person won't do. The extra. The stuff when nobody's looking. They'll ask for help. They'll work through things themselves. And they never stop striving.
I like that. Curiosity, striving, asking questions. That's great advice. Awesome.
Honestly, also, I just want to say thank you because you obviously inspire me. We've done a lot of work together. So, I don't know how many people get the opportunity to say thank you to you for your books. Your books have inspired my athletes. You've inspired me. And I really, truly, genuinely want to say thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it's also been a pleasure getting to know you over all these years, our friendship, and also just to see you blossom from being, a world-class athlete into now a world-class coach. And I want to acknowledge you because you're continually learning. You've got your feet on the ground. I obviously follow you on social media, which again, everybody is Delaney Collins 34.
Yeah, Delaney C34.
Sorry, say again.
Delaney C34.
Sorry, Delaney C34, which is on Instagram and Twitter. Guys, follow her. Doing great things in coaching. Also super positive. You also might get some tennis news on there as well. If you're a tennis fan, especially a Fed fan as well. So, all right. So Delaney, it's been a pleasure. I know you're three hours behind me there on the West Coast. So I'm going to let you get back to your training for the Ironman. Good luck in that. When is it?
I'm going to go in Indian Wells, December 9th.
Oh, beautiful there. I was there last month. So enjoy it. So Delaney, all the best, and we speak soon.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you.
So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one with Delaney Collins. Remember that this podcast is available on iTunes and on YouTube. Also, connect with me on social media on Twitter at Allistair McCaw, on Facebook, Allistair McCaw page, and on Instagram, Be Champion Minded. So remember, you were made for greatness. Now go do the work. Until next time, stay champion minded, my friends.